The train always arrived at 7:15 sharp, a ribbon of silver gliding into the station with the precision of a heartbeat. To most, it was nothing more than a means of getting from one day to the next, but for Emma, it had become a sanctuary. She loved the rhythm of the wheels, the way the world blurred into watercolor as the countryside rolled past. It was here, somewhere between Platform 4 and the city's edge, that she first noticed him. He was quiet, always seated by the window, his gaze fixed not on the rushing world outside, but on something deeper, as though he were listening to music only he could hear. His name, she later learned, was Daniel. Their first conversation began by accident, an apology when she dropped her book, and he picked it up, brushing his fingers against hers. It was a spark disguised as chance. From that day, the train became more than a commute. It became their story. Every morning, Emma looked forward to finding him there, as though fate itself had reserved a seat. They spoke of small things at first, the weather, the books they read, the absurdities of office life. But as days folded into weeks, their words deepened. Emma told him about her dreams of becoming a painter, how the world spoke to her in colors she struggled to capture. Daniel, with a soft smile, confessed his love for poetry, how he scribbled lines in margins and napkins when words pressed too heavily on his heart. To her, he was like the moon, quiet, steady, always present, yet carrying a mystery she longed to uncover. And to him, she was the sun, radiant, warm, capable of turning ordinary mornings into something golden. They never called it love aloud, but it was love nonetheless. The kind of love that grew in silences, in the shared rhythm of breathing side by side, in the subtle brush of hands when the train swayed. Their hearts spoke in metaphors, each stop of the train another stanza in the poem they were writing together. But beneath Daniel's smile lived a shadow he never shared. When Emma laughed, he laughed with her. But behind his eyes there was always a flicker of something heavy, something final. At night, when the world was quiet, he felt it, the illness threading through his veins like a silent clock, ticking toward the inevitable. He had been given a number, a cruel expiration date that no medicine could erase. And though every fiber of him ached to tell her, he could not. Love, he thought, was meant to be light, not burden. So he gave her his best pieces, the poetry, the laughter, the long conversations about dreams they might never chase. And he kept the darkness locked away, like a secret folded into an envelope he could never send. The seasons turned. Leaves surrendered to autumn, snow softened the rooftops, and still their train carried them together. Emma painted again because of him, filling canvases with colors she thought she had forgotten. Daniel wrote more lines than he ever had, every word soaked with the urgency of borrowed time. Then, one morning he didn't appear. The seat by the window was empty, and Emma felt a hollowness she couldn't name. The train moved forward, but for the first time, she felt lost, as though her compass had been stolen. Days passed, each one heavier than the last, until finally on a rain-drenched evening, she found him again. He was there on the platform, pale, thinner, his smile fragile like glass. "I'm sorry," he whispered, as though the words themselves were fragile. She wanted to ask why he had vanished, why he looked as though the world had drained him. But before she could, the train arrived and they boarded together. He guided her to their usual seats, his hands trembling. The train pulled away, and with it, Daniel's secret unraveled. "I don't have much time left," he said softly, his eyes searching hers. "The truth is, I've been sick for a long while. Every day with you has been a gift I didn't think I would get. I didn't tell you because I wanted us to be free, not burdened. Just us." Emma's breath caught. Tears welled, blurring the world outside into streaks of sorrow. She wanted to scream at him, to demand why he had hidden this, why he had stolen the chance for her to love him completely, even through pain. But as she looked at him, fragile, brave, breaking, her anger dissolved into grief. "You should have told me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I would have loved you anyway." And there, as the train roared toward its final stop, they held each other's truth. He rested his head against her shoulder, his hand clutching hers, as though she were the last tether holding him to this world. She felt his heartbeat slower now, softer, like a drum fading into silence. The world outside blurred past, stations coming and going, but Emma no longer cared where they were going. All that mattered was here. The warmth of his hand, the weight of his presence, the fragile beauty of a love born in passing moments. The train became their cathedral, the hum of its wheels a hymn, the flickering lights a benediction. It was no longer a ride to the city. It was their last journey together. When the train slowed, Daniel lifted his head weakly and looked at her with eyes full of everything he couldn't to say. "Thank you," he whispered, "for making me feel alive again." Her tears fell onto his shirt, each one a confession, each one a prayer. "Don't leave me," she choked. But the truth was already written in his body. His breaths grew shallow, his grip weaker. And when the train finally came to its last stop, so did his journey. Emma held him as the passengers emptied, her sobs swallowed by the silence that followed. The man who had turned train rides into poetry was gone, leaving behind only his words, his love, and the echo of his heartbeat still thudding faintly in hers. In the weeks that followed, Emma rode the train alone. But she carried him with her, the memory of his laughter, the warmth of his gaze, the unspoken poems he had given her. She painted him into every canvas, lines of sorrow and love stitched into every brushstroke. And sometimes, when the train curved through the countryside and the world blurred into watercolor, she could almost feel him there, his quiet smile beside her, whispering metaphors into her heart. Love, she realized, was not about forever. It was about the moments that cut so deeply they became eternal. And though Daniel had left, he had given her the last train home, a journey not to an ending, but to a place where love lives on in memory, in art, in the spaces between heartbeats. And so Emma rode, alone but not lonely, carrying the ghost of their love through every mile, every station, every dawn. The last train home had taken him away, but it had also given her the courage to keep moving, to keep painting, to keep loving with the kind of ferocity that only loss can teach.